Hello, everyone, and welcome to You Say Maize, I Say Boo. That's right, Halloween is right here this week. Special Halloween edition.
So well done, Chris.
On the set of YSM ISB. I am your host, Chris Cichon, although you would not know it this week, joined by Danny Sass. You can see him a little bit, but...
Little Viking get up here.
I don't know how we came up with these costumes, Danny. This has to be one of the most ridiculous things we've ever done.
Come on, Chris. The current date, it's October 28th. We're 3 days away from Halloween. It's
Getting
a special
pumped.
Halloween edition here of You Say Maize.
Getting pumped. Well, Danny, we still got a show to do, even though Halloween is coming up. You can go ahead and say maize. I'm going to say blue. So the tailgate this past weekend at my house absolutely blew up. It was awesome. What a great time.
Chris,
although they
you can
lost
go
again.
ahead and say blue. I'm going to say maize, and I am just amazed that I was not given an invite to such a tailgate.
You didn't hear about it? Everybody heard about it, Danny.
Dude,
I don't know
I didn't
know where you were. I'm going to take
Maybe
this
it
off.
didn't circulate to, all the way up in Greenland or Norway or wherever I'm from. But
That was a little
enough
hot.
with these costumes. It's time to do a show.
Get down to business.
We're going to do it like we always do it, and we're going to kick things off. Chris, Michigan State, biggest rivalry of the year. If you're not including the Ohio State game or the Notre Dame game or any other Big Ten game. But another disappointing weekend and another disappointing loss for the Michigan football team. What happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same old thing, and that's probably the most disappointing thing that's happened in this 2008 campaign, Danny. They're not getting any better. They're making the same mistakes that they made 3 and 4 weeks ago against Illinois and against Toledo, and you're seeing these same things, missed blocking assignments, bad, stupid penalties. And it seems like, there's just a lack of discipline on the team right now. No matter what we heard in the offseason, how tough-nosed Coach Rodriguez is and how Barwis is going to have them in line. We're not seeing that. They do not look like a very disciplined football team, one of the worst things you can tell a football coach.
I think what was the most disappointing about this game is the fact that Michigan had a chance. And this is a team that didn't deserve a chance. I mean, if you look at the way this game played out, outgained by over 200 yards. You have Javon Ringer running wild, almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. You have, Hoyer looking like he's a young Joe Montana, 282 yards passing, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
seemingly every single underneath route.
Was that Charles Rogers or Blair White catching those passes?
It was unbelievable. Yeah, just the fact
that secondary makes it easy.
So wide open. Both the linebacking core and the secondary making things so easy for the Michigan State offense. And somehow, Whether it was Brett Ratliff just shanking field goals or Michigan getting a little lucky thanks to some officiating, this was a game that in the third quarter Michigan could have won.
Yeah.
And after that
they were up 21 to 14 there.
Ratliff stroinks a kick, a 26-yarder from dead on.
Who are you talking about? Brett Swenson.
Sorry.
I'm going to jump in because that's just going to bother me until we see Stat Boy later. Brett Swenson.
Brett Ratliff is the New York Jets backup quarterback, you can see where that comes from. My sincerest apologies. Brett Swenson taking field goals there for Michigan State, and they both wear green, so it's an understandable mistake.
Right.
But after he stakes that 26-yard field goal, in comes the Michigan offense with a chance to really, make some noise in front of its own student section, really get things going with a 7-point lead late in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And a 3-and-out. And I think that kind of just killed any momentum this team had and really kind of doomed them.
No consistency. Why can't the offense move the ball yet? I mean, it's already halfway through. They still can't move the ball. They should understand what they're doing right now. They're just not doing it, Danny. And this brings us right into topic number 2 today. Rich Rodriguez, past week, he just finally inked his contract. He's been working on a letter of intent since December. It's a 6-year deal, $15 million, about 2.5 per season, Danny. Maybe you ready
for the breakdown of this?
Second thoughts, though?
Absolutely second thoughts. And a 6-year deal for a coach that's 2-6 on a team that doesn't look like they're really enjoying playing for him right now is obviously a questionable decision. But it does generally take this long for a contract to get worked out. And obviously this is retroactive back to when he originally came to the University of Michigan. So there's not much you can do about it at this point.
Right.
But look at the way this breaks down. I mean, this is an absurd amount of money, Chris. He gets a base salary of $300,000 a year. Then he gets $1.65 million for TV, radio, endorsement type stuff. Then he gets bonuses of $300,000 if they win the national title, $200,000 if they make a BCS bowl, $100,000 if they make a New Year's bowl, $50,000 if they make any bowl. He gets the use of 2 free automobiles at the university's expense, and starting in 2010, he gets the use of a luxury box in the big house for up to 8 people. So he's getting the perks.
Great. Well, I got news for him.
For a 2-6. For a 2-6 coach,
he might not even be around,
and he might not be around.
Might not be around to enjoy all that. The thing is, they pour all this money into Rodriguez. They're not going to get rid of him. The university, Coleman and Bill Martin, they pouring all this money. They're not going to get rid of him. So Michigan fans, I guess you just got to bite the bullet in this season. 2008, the worst since 1962.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Rodriguez right now?
My thoughts are he lied to the Michigan the fans. He lied to the Michigan community in general. He said in the offseason, we can win with the talent there. They got, we'll work the offense around the players. He has not done that. He doesn't have to implement his spread offense so drastically and put it all in right this season. He might not even be doing that, but more slowly. Maybe a few series here and there run a lot of your spread, but the rest of the game, let's play Michigan football and let's win some games. Let's beat Toledo. How about that? I guarantee you, Lloyd Carr would not lose to Toledo. I guarantee you, no matter how few talented players are on this roster right now, and there are not that many. Lloyd Carr would win 6 games.
That's an interesting point that you make, that he could play Lloyd football, and I feel like he could win games with this team. I mean, Frieda's not a terrible passer.
Yeah,
he's
can throw the ball around. He can throw the ball.
And I mean, every single throw this kid's making seems to be, to the flats.
He lied to the Michigan
receivers.
fans.
You have a running back. You have running backs, and in Miner and McGuffey, both of whom are, they kind of complement each other well. McGuffey has the speed. Miner's a little bit of a brawler up there in the middle. Why not run up the gut and actually challenge
you got
behind
Stephen
your line rather than running these misdirections and counters that get stuffed for a yard.
Stephen Threet looks like he's running some kind of Irish jig dancing in the backfield before he does anything because he doesn't know what he's doing.
I will say that I think Threet has matured since the start of the season. I mean, obviously the 3 picks against Michigan State aren't encouraging, but he looks like he's starting to get a feel for this offense. And next year we have 2 guys. Who's coming in?
He'll probably give him a run for their money.
Who are the 2 guys Michigan has coming in? It's Beaver and Tate Forcier.
Right.
So 2 guys who are probably going to take away a large chunk of.
We'll see. He'll probably give him a run for their money with the experience he's picked up. Danny, let's keep going. Stay in the realm of football. Let's go to the professional ranks. Mike Singletary, new interim coach now of the San Francisco 49ers, replacing Mike Nolan. I don't know if you saw the tirade he had after last Sunday's game, but man, he went off.
He went off on Vernon Davis, and he apologized to the 49er fans, and it's about time because this is a once proud franchise that has just kind of seen that ship sinking a little bit in San Francisco. Is it the right thing to do? Maybe. I mean, it's an obvious change of pace from Mike Nolan. Mike Nolan's suit and a tie. Him and Jack Del Rio were the ones that brought that, suit action over the sideline. Bringing a guy like Singletary, he's a former player, anchored that Bears defense in '86. That was just absolutely ferocious. So, I think he's more of a player's coach, perhaps.
Yeah.
Whether or not his rapport with Vernon Davis is going to get any better throughout the year is to be determined. But, it's obvious that he's not going to be taking any lip from any of his players. And a stupid mistake like that, lay down the hammer and send a message. Yeah. It's the message this team needs. You mentioned it earlier. Discipline makes football teams.
All these young players need to look at something and say, hey, this is the leader that I need to follow, especially Vernon Davis, a guy who has done absolutely really nothing since he was drafted with all that hype and Under Armour commercials, what have you.
And let's be real. Vernon Davis is a talented tight end. And I think, maturity is probably an issue with him right now.
Yeah.
And I think
Singletary definitely helped
Singletary
with that.
will, this is obviously a lesson for Vernon Davis. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I agree with humiliating him in front of his teammates and the fans on a nationally televised game.
Humiliate.
Oh, it's pretty humiliating.
He humiliated himself by doing that in the first place.
Yes and no.
Act like a professional on the field.
Absolutely. But, there are plenty of people who get, 15-yard misconduct penalties and unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, personal fouls, whatever you have.
It was just like a building process.
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, I think this will help Davis in the long run. I think Davis is the kind of player who will learn from this, not the kind of player who will cower from this.
Mike Singletary is going to do big things in the Bay Area if Scott McClellan keeps him the GM there because, you said it. He said first thing we're going to do.
Already made a quarterback change today announcing that Sean Hill's going to take over.
He said, we're going to come out in the field. First thing we're going to do, we're going to hit you in the mouth. Then we're going to worry about playing the game. That's all you got to do.
Sean Hill from Maryland, Vernon Davis from Maryland, a little Terps connection there going on.
We see how good they are in the pros. Danny, switching over to basketball from football. Basketball right around the corner. Michigan basketball. Manny Harris named preseason All Big Ten right here in Ann Arbor. He's going to be a sophomore this year. Averaged 16 a game last year, but the team, that's what it's all about, right? The team went 10-22 last year. So tell me what a first team preseason All Big Ten performer is going to do for this kind of team.
Gives them a face. It absolutely matters. Chris, it absolutely matters. When you have a player that you can look on and lean on and rely on, kind of like how Michigan State has, a Raymar Morgan, kind of like how Wisconsin has a Marcus Landry, kind of like how Purdue has, your Etuan Moore, your Robbie Hummels, studs. Someone that you can look at and say, we have a leader.
He didn't do much of that last year.
He was a freshman last year. So now he's a sophomore. No, he has a year. You're not going to ask a freshman to lead a basketball team. He's a sophomore now.
He was taking the most shots.
Who else is going to take him?
Well, by your logic, it shouldn't be a freshman.
No, you can be a leader. There's a difference between being a leader in terms of morale, how you keep your team up, how you run a game.